This is a super quick and dirty splitter build. It's just a matter of making it good enough to have something to go to Road America with. I only started on this thing yesterday, so I only had like 2 hours into it, just cutting some plywood. The backer here is going to be for the air dam to get screwed to. I don't even have time to put diffusers or anything in it, so this front edge needs to be rounded off yet, but I don't have time. I need to pack and get this car in the trailer so that I'm ready to leave tomorrow right after work. So all this will have to get taken care of at the track. So, but it's, you know, I had to straighten out some bent parts from last year. I haven't had a splitter on this thing in like 9 months, 10 months, something like that. So it's just to be something that we've got to run at Road America. So I'll end up finishing up with the air dam, and hopefully plan is to do like some A/B tests at Road America if I can, with and without the aero. I cannot catch a break with transmission issues. Pull both of them down. This one had popping out of third, and yeah, there was the fork shift pads came loose and got jammed in there goofy. Okay, whatever. Fixed that. Tried to clean up some stuff to make it hold gear a little bit better. 2, I even swapped the fourth gear because it was the other transmission was popping out of fourth on D-cell, and it looked like it was just worn, maybe just enough on the engagement teeth. So like I took the best out of both to whatever I needed and put it in here, and now I can't get reverse. It's like, I didn't even do anything with reverse stuff. Just, and then the shifter's like every other gear's just jamming tight. I got all the forward gears, no reverse though. Everything's just freaking messed up. I want to be done. It's freaking hot and humid, and I want to just be loaded up and ready to go.
Fuck. Shit. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Why didn't I look at oil pressure first? Damn it.
Well, that didn't go to plan. First session after we got to Road America went pretty good. I was just out there getting comfortable with the car again. Excuse my voice a little bit. On top of things not going great for Road America, I've been sick and got some stuff just hanging around my throat, but first session out went pretty good. The transmission was working the way it was supposed to, so a couple of modifications I did to that were working out well as far as it staying in gear. So that's probably something I'm going to start doing going forward now too, as an additional modification, as well as I swapped the input shafts just to make sure because the teeth were slightly better. But long story short, first session went well. I was just getting comfortable with the car again, and I was looking forward to getting out there second session. I was in the process of getting the splitter ready to go, and when I went out for second session, did my warm-up lap, started my flyer, and when I was exiting turn 3, I didn't know it at the time, but it tossed my dry cell belt, and the car started missing and running like shit, and I was worried about cars coming behind me, and the first couple cars went by, and then I was starting to get smoke. I was looking in the rearview mirror. I wasn't leaving a trail, and at that point in time there were still cars coming, and I figured I'd limp it down to 5 to get off the track and save the session for everybody else. What I didn't realize until I was pulling off at 5 was that my timing, when I had a second to look over at the dash, was at -10. And the only way that would happen is if I had no oil pressure. And I immediately looked at my oil pressure gauge. It was at 0, and I shut it off. But I probably drove half a mile with no oil pressure. Now granted, with the timing pulled, the engine should have been barely making any power, and maybe we saved the bottom end with that. In hindsight, I probably should have had some better setup as far as a safety kill. I was under the impression that I had the Holly set up in a way that it should have been flashing angrily at me that there was no oil pressure, but that didn't happen. So that's something I'm going to need to fix going forward. However, after getting towed back to my paddock spot, I put a new belt on. The car started up. It was started up and was running okay. Not great, but okay. And I had 22 pounds oil pressure with everything still soaked hot, which I think is about normal for an idle kind of thing. You know, rev it up a little bit, the oil pressure go up higher, okay. But the top end was really clattery and loud. So at that point, I'm just like, it's not worth trying to go back out and risk blowing the entire engine up, because it was running, is running, kind of a thing. So I just decided to call my weekend there and ended up just enjoying camping with the family, because I have a whole family with. So my wife and the 3 boys. And we ended up doing some fun things like making a scavenger hunt out of finding all the stump carvings that Road America has scattered around. They don't have a list of how many there are or where they're at. There's like some of them are posted online from an older newspaper article, but I don't know. We ended up just kind of having fun cruising around on the golf cart looking for those things. Killed a few hours. The boys had a great time with that. And otherwise, I'm just enjoying the weekend, and then we ended up leaving a little bit early on Saturday to go visit some friends and family stuff that was local-ish to the track to spend some more time with them. So all in all, not a terrible weekend. Didn't go how I wanted, but now here we are trying to diagnose how bad the damage is. For starters, it's not real surprising why the top end was loud. Everything's super loose. Pretty sure every single rocker arm loosened up. Now, what failed / or is failing that's causing them to be loose, I don't know yet, but that's obviously where our loud valve train's coming from, and probably why it's got a bit of a hiccup in the way it runs right now. Also worth noting that after everything cooled down, I did start it and drive it in the trailer, and I drove it out of the trailer here, and firing this thing back up cold, it's got 55 pounds of oil pressure, which is hopefully a good sign for the bottom end. So at this point, I mean, driving half a mile with no oil pressure, it would have been bad for the top end, obviously. That's why everything's so dang loose. I suspect that I probably wiped out the exhaust guides at the very least. But with the rockers being loose, I mean, we could have damaged the studs and had them loosen up. We could have damaged the rocker arms themselves, and everything's just gonna have to get inspected. I think it's pretty safe to say we didn't lose a valve. Otherwise, we would have had some way bigger broken problems. But could have bent some push rods here. I mean, hell, we could have damaged the cam at this point. Although the cam is a solid roller, so really there's not a lot of parts there that should have got damaged by momentarily being without oil. And I mean, everything was still soaked in oil, so it shouldn't be anything catastrophic in that department. And I mean, maybe we took out the cam bearings, but you know, that would let the cam ride lower in the block and loosen everything up. But at this point, you just need to take everything apart, mostly even just as a sanity check. The last thing I'd want to do is just adjust these rockers and send it pretending everything's okay and it not be, and go to the very next event and actually blow it up. So right now, I mean, even if I take it apart and everything looks okay, which who knows, I'm definitely capable of being that lucky. It's happened before. That would be great. At which point, spending a few $100, you know, or even might as well tear the heads apart. If I gotta put guides in it and do a valve job, okay, it cost me, you know, $1,500. That's a hell of a lot better than well in excess of 10 grand for a whole engine if it was to grenade the bottom end. So that's where we're at. Pulling these first batch of rockers off. There, that one's nice and free. That one's not too bad. The first couple I pulled off, they're stiff. So I'm thinking at the very least, trunnion bearings are shot. Which, honestly, if that's the worst of it, wouldn't be bad overall. Yeah, some of them are real stiff. I mean, they're moving, but they're stiff. A lot stiffer than they should be. Push rods appear to be straight. No signs of undue wear on them, so that's a good sign for those at least. Oh, we got a storm rolling in, but I'm going to be pulling the front clip just because everything I'm going to be doing here is going to be way easier with fenders and stuff off. Yes, thanks. I know there's a storm outside. Yes, I know. Really? You just want pets? No, now you want a cat. Anyway. Oh, working on everything will be a lot easier with the fenders and front clip off, and I haven't had the car torn down this far in over a year and a half, so probably be some maintenance items to take care of as long as we're in there. Alright, now that the front clip is off, it'll be way easier to work on this thing. And believe it or not, I have not drained a single fluid out of this engine yet, other than technically unhooking the fuel system. But literally that could still be hooked up and I could be to this point of teardown and not have drained any coolant or oil or anything else. But we're going to need to do those things. It'll be a lot easier to start taking accessories and crap off of the front. I gotta pull the intake manifold anyway, like, we gotta drain that stuff. But it's nice to be able to get this much stuff out of the way before needing to do that. The distributor gear looks okay. It's got that one little shiny spot on it, but that's normal wear. Biggest thing is it's not all slopped out. Spark plugs are pulled. Other than being a little rich, they all look fine, so that's also good news that we don't have any damage in the cylinders, at least as far as that's going to tell us. So things are looking pretty good so far. And there's our damping evidence. That fell out from the oil filter. That is a significant chunk of something. And this is why I wasn't chancing it. Interestingly though, that's foam, by the way. But I've seen more glitter on a regular, normal wear and tear oil change, so it's pretty interesting. Although, it's making me wonder what the heck them large chunks are. There's actually 3 so far. And they're steel, which is kind of weird. So I'm wondering if I had a primary failure that caused the belt to pop, or vice versa. But I don't know, I'm still kind of hopeful that the bearings are okay. But we'll have to get it the rest of the way apart to see. Well, another big chunk out of the oil filter. The glitter is definitely in the oil filter, which is surprising because the actual oil itself was pretty clean, so the filter did its job. But it's not hard to tell where it's coming from based on this lifter being difficult to take out. You can see that cam bearing is all smushed out, overlapping the lifter bore. It's the only one that's pushed out that far, but it's definitely not surprising. There's definitely some fuzzy chunks on the back one too, so for sure we gotta tear this entire thing apart. Be able to put cam bearings in it at the bare minimum.
All right, we're down to the serious business. Definitely more chunks in the pan. Hopefully it'll be cam bearing. But we'll check the main or rods and mains here now. Well, we don't have a rod that's all slopped out immediately, so good sign, I guess. I mean, the big thing here is if I have to get the crank ground again, that's going to be a problem time frame wise. Unless I can sweet talk somebody into really doing me a solid. All right. Check out these rod bearings. They look surprisingly great. That's the only one of real concern. But these were also, I spent the money on coated rod bearings and shit. They held up great. I mean, really to the point the cap sides could pretty much get reused other than number 3 there. But I mean, wow, they held up, and that's probably what saved the crank, because the crankshaft looks fantastic still. Probably just give it a quick polish. Even the mains held up pretty good, and they were not coated. But, I mean, it's really kind of a example of them coated rod bearings. You know, that coating bought me that, I don't even know what it was, 30 to 60 seconds to drive that half mile. I mean, obviously the ignition timing cut so that it was making basically no power had a big part to do with that. If it had still been making full power, I'm sure those would have been toast. But the combination of it where, you know, cut the timing so it's not making any power, those coated rod bearings, and just the fact that everything would have been soaked with oil at that point in time, it still would have had some splash oiling, you know, bought me the time and was able to save the crank. So I'm real happy about that. Definitely looks like all of the material and shit is coming from the cam bearings. Because look at these things. So definitely going to need to replace those. Or should I just pretend it's an LS and send it? You know, they got shitty cam bearings all the time. But the bearing definitely spun in that bore. I'm going to have to hope that those are just superficial scratches and that the block isn't toast because of that. Or I'll have to be figuring out a situation where I can bore the cam tunnel. Also need to be worried about whether or not this cam's going to be okay. It doesn't seem like any huge raised areas or deep areas and scratches. I mean, there's a few, but yeah, that one's got definitely a side to side on it. But you might be able to just polish that out. Maybe there'll be a little extra oil clearance there. Wouldn't be the end of the world, but that bearing does need to be tight in the block, so that's going to be of concern. But I don't know. We'll just have to get it apart the rest of the way and get everything cleaned and checked out. I'm gonna have to just finish stripping that block down, go get it washed and stuff. So, but yeah, it's not the end of the world, but hopefully the block's okay, because that means this can be a quick back together. Also, that cam's kind of expensive, but I don't know. I've got extra cams. I've got, I have an extra cam anyway.
It's supposed to be for the other motor, which is probably way too dang big for this one. But we'll just have to see. But this is where we're at. Got about 4 weeks, I don't know, 3 weeks now till King of the Mountain. Not quite 4 weeks, almost though, 3.5 maybe. Yeah, hopefully gonna try to get all this stuff sorted out today. Figure out what I need to order, figure out whether this block's okay, and gonna have to make a decision. If it's not, I've got, I don't know, I got another block I could have built up, but that's gonna take time, probably too long. I've got 2 other short blocks over there that are complete, except I don't think either one of them's a D, so my lifters isn't gonna fit. They're DXs, so the lifter bores are bigger. Otherwise, I've got this regular 350 olds that I bought for $100. That plan was just see how cheap a horsepower kind of rebuild we can do on it. You know, port the heads and stuff, and keep that one pretty basic. I mean, it was worth $100 for the intake manifold that came on it. So that one's just got a super slopped out timing chain. So I could probably change the timing chain on that one and it'll run. You know, I'm not saying I want to do that, but I mean, if that's where we're at, that's where we're at. You know, it obviously won't make the power, but I mean, it could also swap the cam and throw the heads on, but then it's a light casting windowed main where I'd be concerned about it making too much power. But I don't know, if I just grabbed a different cam to throw in it, but I don't know, even at that point in time, now I'm spending money on something I really don't want to spend a ton of money on. You know, that might be just a stock rebuild with a better intake as a good flowing head, so I can throw my headers on it. You know, it'll make better power, but it won't be anything stellar. So I don't know. I just hope this block's okay. I hope that cam's okay, and we'll go from there.